Welcome to Beyond the Game. My name is Gregan, and today I'm chatting with Robbie Knox, one of the Happy Hour co-hosts.
I lived in Canada, I moved to London, I worked at a TV studio for a year, and then I went to Soccer AM, so yes.
Well, let's talk about Happy Hour. You know, this is...
You've had Stevie on here, haven't you?
Had Stevie on here. When did that start to happen, where the podcast realised that actually you didn't need the guests, it was more about you guys?
Jack was calling them the main shows, like the ones that we do. Okay, what? So the ones with like Ricky Gervais and KSI on, they're like just the filler, but the ones where we sit here and talk about nonsense is the main shows.
Yeah. Very rarely do I see people talk about video games and get this excited.
Yeah, I do, because I think it's good fun. And there was, when I was a kid...
For you, with the excitement around games, I feel like it's because you've gone through the journey of they weren't really there and then they've got better. Whereas like a lot of younger people, they come in and it's just normal. It's just games are there for everyone.
And it's like, can I swear on this?
Yeah, you can swear.
Yeah. That was it, I'm carrying on. No, it's like you get people now going, oh man, like FIFA's so off. Like, you should see the games we had to play. Moan about FIFA.
Make sure to follow for future episodes and let us know who you want to hear from next. I hope you enjoy this conversation as we get to know Robbie beyond the game. Robbie, welcome.
We started. Wow.
That's it, we're in.
Okay, hello. Thank you. Welcome to this studio.
The studio, famously secret studio.
Yeah.
It's
do people
definitely
know?
not a living room.
Do people know where it is?
Stratford, vaguely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but they know it's in your kitchen.
In my living room. No, a lot of people come into my living room. They're like, "Oh my goodness, this is your living room."
Yeah, and it's
as
an
well
amazing,
as a studio.
It's an amazing view that you got. When I lived in London, I was in London for about 12, 15 years, and I lived in like the worst places, like absolute hovels. And every YouTuber I know lives in some kind of incredible penthouse flat. I don't know what's going on.
I think it's the money, probably. Okay. That's probably a big factor, but it's also the internet. These places tend to have the best internet around the block.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, let's go back to the start, Robbie. Back when you were in... Not quite that early, but when you were in London, I assume that was around the time when you started Soccer AM. Yeah,
so I lived in Canada. I moved to London. I worked at a TV studio for a year, and then I went to Soccer AM. So yes,
and that was like early 2000s, right?
Yeah, 2000, summer of 2000. I joined.
And how did you first get into the entertainment industry?
So I essentially I went to uni in Norwich, UEA, and I did the student radio while I was there called Livewire, and I then went to Canada for a year, just messed around in jobs. But then people I knew from student radio were working in media. A guy called Dan Trelfer worked at the TV studio where I then got a job as a runner, and then when he left, and then he was working at Avalon, which for Tim Lovejoy, who was the presenter of Soccer AM at the time's agents. And he knew I watched Soccer AM and said, hey, they're looking for someone, send a CV off. So I sent the CV off and got a job.
Got involved. And you were there for about 7 years.
Correct.
I mean, in the grand scheme of the online space, 7 years is astronomically long. You know, people like the Sidemen, they're coming on 8, 9 years. Everyone's mind blown that they're still together. So why was it able to be such a long-term thing for you with the TV compared to what it's like now?
Lack of employable skills, probably. I don't know. I mean, it was my favourite show on TV. It was. I think it was one of the best shows around at the time. And so there wasn't really anything else I wanted to do. Like, I sort of looked around at other things. I thought, I don't want to work on that show. I don't want to be asking some celebrities' favourite marmalade and stuff like this. And So I was doing that. I was really enjoying it, and I was able to do more stuff. I remember we'd be involved within a year. I was in edit suites and stuff, doing things. And I remember talking to friends who were my age and worked in normal TV sort of thing, and they said, "Oh yeah, I got to go in an edit suite this week." And I was like, "I've been in an edit suite like every day for 3 years, and you're only just getting to go in one now," sort of thing. So we got to this incredible amount of experience in this really sort of high pressure environment and learned so much. It was a great thing. But then when I left, it was like, okay, it has been 7 years. Let's move on.
Ready for something new. And when you were there, it was everyone who was part of the production team was quite involved on camera as well. Yeah,
it was never. People come down to the show, like we had fans of the week, members of the public would come along, and they'd say, "What did you do during the week?" Because they thought our job was just. They say comedians, which is mental. Sorry, someone's trying to phone me. I didn't know my phone told me that.
Oh, you got a phone on your watch?
Well, I've got a watch that tells me my phone's ringing. I can't do that. You know, when I was a kid, that was considered the dream of technology, having like being able to make phone calls on your watch, like it was in sci-fi stuff like that. And then so much has happened now, and you get so much technology that's come along now. You can do that, and I'll be like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah,
it was the dream as a kid, and I'm like, nah, I've got better.
Yeah, and it's all the things like VR. You're like, oh, that's incredible, and then you do it, you're like, yeah, it's gimmicky.
Yeah.
Had it go. Don't really fancy it anymore.
Yeah. That wasn't what I was talking about. What were we talking about?
What you did during the week with the fans.
Soccer AM during the week. Oh yeah, on the show. Yeah, but what would happen is you'd turn up and they need someone for a sketch, and it might be like, can you be first of all, Tim said to me, can you be an old woman? Something. So I did that, and then the next week, if you've done that without doing something mental, then you might get something that's got a line or two or something like that, and then you'll end up doing a character that's popular or goes well, and you might do it another week, and then it might become something that things that ran for a few years that I did. So yeah, but we weren't in there going. You didn't go into it to be on screen, but it just sort of happened.
And then between Soccer AM and sort of your online presence with Happy Hour, YouTube, and all that kind of thing, you had your own production company.
Yes, I still do. So I'm doing some work on Monday for it.
Okay.
For just filming down in London, but I do less and less of that now as the sort of online stuff has taken over.
Is that just a bit of anything, really? Or is it specific clients?
I've done like directed TV adverts and stuff like that, and bigger sort of stuff. I don't really like that. My ideal job is something I go along to, film it in a day myself, so I don't have to get other people involved because that's a ball ache. And then I can edit myself, deliver it, send them an invoice, move on. Like a nice, easy thing like that is what I like now. I've got all sort of. I think when I had kids, I lost that sort of. I want to build this sort of thing, and now I just want the production company thing to just pay bills and stuff.
So you enjoy the variety of it.
Yeah, and I do like the production stuff because you go into people's businesses a lot of the time and learn about things. Like I did some work for a hospital, and so you get to talk to consultants and stuff, and you learn about being a doctor without having to do like 7 years of medical training and stuff. So you get to like dip your nose into people's work.
And speaking of good variety, your YouTube channel has the weirdest variety of videos.
Yeah, it's mental. Like it's the worst way to grow a YouTube channel like that, because people will, like, every time I release a video, loads of people just unsubscribe because, and I get it, someone will have watched a skiing video and gone, oh, this guy's great. Might see a couple of skiing videos, I'll watch this, and then I'm taking out the bins or on a happy hour tour or something. Or someone might. There's so many different things. It doesn't make any sense. But what I think it does give you in the long haul is the people that are really into your stuff are really into you. So you build up, I think, stronger bonds with people perhaps than you would otherwise. Yeah,
it was a few video titles. What, Bin Day was quite a popular one.
Yeah, I mean,
building a wormery.
Also, another thing with that is when I do the production company, because a lot of the time I'd go into companies and they'd be saying, oh, I don't know what's interesting about our company. And I've got a video about taking the bins out with 50,000 views. So let's cut that out. Your factory's interesting or whatever.
Yeah.
So there is that element. But yeah, I think it's... when anyone asks what the channel's about, I just say it's killing time until I die.
I was going to describe it as lifestyle, but then that's pretty...
Yeah, I do sort of every now and then think, should I make it a bit more themed? The loosest possible sense. But the thing is, I don't want to do a specific thing because then you get stuck into doing that. I don't want to do the same thing all the time.
Well, now everyone's going, do tour vlogs. I'm not on tour anymore.
Yeah, and it's like you've got... There's things that you want to do, and I genuinely don't care how many views a video makes. It literally doesn't bother me. If I put a video out and it got 5,000 views or 100,000 views, it doesn't affect my opinion of that because I've just been around long enough, I think, to not care. But what I've found now is that I have to start caring a bit, because if you're relying on brand deals and stuff, they'll look at how many views your last 10 videos have got, and I can sort of go, well, I can eat crisps with stevia and it's probably going to get 30,000 views sort of thing. Or I could do something in the garden, might be a better, more interesting video, but it's probably only going to get 10,000 or something like that. So you can sort of have to play the game a bit. Yeah,
well, with that, you've now got a beer brewing company.
Yep.
And that was sort of spawned out of the YouTube channel in a way, right? Where you're trying it out and then was like, actually, I could turn this into something.
Yeah, I think the good thing about, as well, of having an audience and doing whatever you want is you can just sort of do whatever you like to a degree. Like if I said I want to... What's that?
You like beer.
I like beer. Yeah, how it happened is at the time, I think, whatever video I did, I'd make at least 50 quid in ad revenue. Right? No, not not loads, but at the time it was pandemic-y times, and I was thinking, do you know what? That means I can try anything up to the value of £50, and as long as I make a video on it. So I got a beer brewing kit for like 50 quid, and made this, and then and it went well, and then I made some more, got some slightly better kit, made some more, took it to a brewery to get a brewer's opinion. I thought it'd be a good video. A professional brewer tries my home brew, and they were like, "Oh god, that's actually really good." We thought we'd gonna have to lie and stuff. That's really good. And then they said, "Do you want to brew a beer together?" So I thought, well, okay, yeah, I'll start up a little brewery. So it's like a virtual thing. To be honest, happy hour, because it's gone like that recently. I've hardly done any brewing stuff, so I don't know what I'm gonna do in that.
Well, let's talk about happy hour. You know, this is...
You've had Stevie on here, haven't you?
Had Stevie on here. That was quite early on in the podcast life.
Okay,
So it was very much like a mate doing a favour, whereas now I'm getting in the actual
You were doing him a
celebrities.
favour. Yeah, get it.
Yeah, whereas now I've got the actual celebrities in from happy hour.
Yeah. You've warmed up. You got those ones where you're practicing, and now you're...
Next is Alfie, and then probably get Fiona.
Yeah, all the good ones, yeah.
So work up the chain. Might put Jack on, but, sometimes Jack is... hard to interview,
Is he? Have you interviewed him before?
Yeah, he just sort of, it's about him more than when it is about you,
Okay.
So I like to be the centre of attention.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that's literally the only reason I'm.
Yeah, you wanted to hear from me. You want to hear from me. You came in for that. I mean, that's where Happy Hour is one of those special podcasts, because typically the guest podcasts aren't as popular as the ones where the hosts, the interviewers, go away and do it on themselves, because you guys have such a special bond that together you make these amazing podcasts talking about absolutely anything. When did that start to happen, where the podcast realised that actually you didn't need the guests, it was more about you guys?
Well, Jack was calling them the main shows, like the ones that we do. I was going, what? So the ones with like Ricky Gervais and KSI on, they're like just the filler, but the ones where we sit here and talk about nonsense is the main shows.
Yeah.
I think it's really good having both. I think it when you chat to people about how they discover the podcast, there's such a variety of things. It might be I'm Alex fan of Tommy Innit or something like that, and I saw a clip of him, sort of things. I think the guest ones are good at bringing people in, but then again, and then a lot of people then grow to love the main show things.
Yeah, because what I was saying before, joking about a bit about me, is I very much made this podcast. I want to try and like highlight the guests and be as little attention as possible. But genuinely, sometimes when I'm listening to the podcast, I'm like, God, Jack, Stevie, have some banter, have a chat. What is it about you guys banter together that is so special on camera?
I think we're fairly authentic. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no one. Jack's not making up that he's had sexual intercourse with a plush toy football, which is really weird if he did, sort of thing. Like, so
just for example,
sort of authenticity. I don't think we're trying to be alpha or anything. I don't even. It's not working if we are. I don't think we're trying to be anything that we're not. I think we're all quite funny. If I'm totally honest, I think. And also I think there's enough work goes into it, a bit of production that we are. It's not just sitting down. Generally, I mean, sometimes it is. It's not just sitting down and talking. There is a structure, and practice at doing it. So I think a mix of things. But I think I don't know. I mean, the funny thing is quite big, because I think it's the one thing I was listening to. Is Andrew Schultz in America who said, he was saying that funny is the thing that you can't fake. Like, you can emotion, you can sort of act out, you can do all these things, but you can't pretend to be funny, because it doesn't work. Sorry.
So even that was funny, just the way you hit a glass table.
So I think that's probably a big bit of it, but then them all together, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
did I come close to answering your question?
I guess it's one of those where you can't really understand it, because a lot of the time with successful content, it sort of happens, and then you kind of work out in hindsight why it works so well. Yeah. And, like, why was Stevie the co-host that Jack decided to keep all that time, and why did you suddenly...
I know, we're all asking that. Yeah.
Why did you suddenly spawn? You came in for the happy half hours.
So I came as a guest, and then I think I came back on... Like, since I met Jack years ago in a Chinese cooking show, and then I've just, whenever he's asked me to do anything, I really liked him when I met him, and whenever he's asked me to do anything, I've always just said yes, whatever it was. Like, generally when he was filming something, he needed like an old man or something, something a bit weird. So I'd always just do things like that occasionally, and I helped out in his Fubar radio show when he did that, and then came on as a guest, came on a couple of times for like Christmas specials or Halloween specials or something, and then he also did the happy half hour, and then when the Spotify deal got signed, there was a certain length the episodes had to be, so the happy half didn't really fit in. So he just said, I'll just come on the main shows. So we just did that.
And it formed this sort of trio plus Alfie.
Yeah.
Which
Super sub.
The super sub.
Yeah.
And you created this whole tour that recently just finished.
Yep.
Your second leg. I went along to 2 of the first leg.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Guildford and one of the London shows.
Yep.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
A joy to have you there.
And I brought people along. My mum, who's listened to barely any, and the other one was 2 of my content creator friends who used to be friends with, still friends with Stevie probably, but worked with him at Guild. And they were like, this is amazing. And I don't even know any of the references.
Or no.
And they found it just funny anyway, because it was very entertaining. There's a lot of in-jokes that were more entertaining if you knew them. Was that a big part of the show for you, that you wanted to make it just entertaining no matter what?
Yeah, I think there's a mix. I mean, some in-jokes are good, I think, but then you want it to be, the people are going to bring other people along. There's some young people will come with parents and stuff like that, which is, I was like, sorry mate, because at my age I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. So yeah, a bit of that. And also what I found as well was the in-jokes, because we started off doing it in February and we wrote the script then, but then we did another leg that was April, May. But the things that were in-jokes, like Stevie running a marathon on a treadmill, not doing it properly, they'd get a really big laugh in February. But by like May, everyone's kind of forgotten about this. So a lot of those jokes have just sort of slipped by the wayside a little bit, and people are like, oh yeah, I sort of vaguely remember that.
Yeah, and I guess there was a lot of improv with it, so it didn't really matter a huge amount about the planned stuff, because every show was unique and quite stand-up-y, improv-y. Yeah,
the second half was all different every week. The first half, the urban legends were always the same that we did, and there was some bits that overlap. So generally, if you came to more than one, you might have got a bit more in the first half. The second half, you've probably been all right.
Yeah. Well, with that, you get to meet a lot of people who listen to the podcast. I mean, every single show you go to Stage Door, and you met thousands of people across the tour, probably tens of thousands. Yeah. And with that, you got to meet your audience in a condensed way, because I'm sure you guys meet people in public all the time. Been out with Stevie and gets mistaken for Ollie White once. That was quite funny. But when you meet these people in a condensed space, your most fanny of fans. Fanny of fans? I don't think that's the way to... Most
passionate fans.
Passionate fans.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones who are willing to spend £20 to come see you.
£19.50 plus booking fee. Yeah.
They're going to be turning up, and they're going to want to meet you, and they're going to want to give you gifts. They're going to want to tell you stuff about your podcast. What were those fan interactions like?
It was interesting. It was lovely, is the short answer. Because obviously, you will bump into people, but they're all spread out across the world. Whereas it's very different when everyone's in one place, because you're sort of like, if you're getting to the venue a bit late and there's people around, you're almost sort of like, you don't want to get caught there for too long beforehand, because you've got to get in for sound check and stuff. And it'd be things like, if you want to go and get something from the bus, you have to go and get someone to do it, because you go, I can't go out there because I'll be stuck for half an hour talking to people, or might look a bit rude. So you have
they're not going to be ready for it as well, so they're often going to be thrown off by it. Yeah,
so you'd have to go and get people to do stuff for you, and it was quite weird having everyone in one place. But in terms of people, they were lovely. I mean, we'd always go out and we'd meet. I think I met literally everyone that wanted to. There was one venue when we had to get, because we had this tour bus for a bit, there's a certain driver's hours thing. So once they start, their shift had to end at 8 hours. So it's like, we have to go after half an hour. So we went as quick as possible as we could for that one. But generally we're there like over an hour and a half some nights, or thing like that, just chatting to people afterwards. And it was very nice. But eventually it got a bit more like the tour managers would go out and give people a little speech beforehand, going in the politest possible sense, like, they don't need to hear a life story. You've got so many people to get through. Go for it.
Well, I guess as well, with the vlogs that you're putting out every day, you were advertising, we'll meet you at Stage Door, so then more people would stay, and it started to build up and build up.
Yeah, and that helps sell tickets as well. That's why I started doing the vlogs, really, because I thought, you know what, if we're showing that we are there chatting to people and it's a nice, friendly environment, then hopefully people who are on the fence go, oh, do you know what, I will pop down. I've got one hit Stevie. So things like that, I think were that sort of thing helps a bit. Yeah.
Well, we've spoken enough about you and your career. There's still so much we could have spoken about because you've had such a long career and doing so many different things.
The word you say, because you're old. Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. But because you're old, I want to know about the different kind of gaming lifestyle you'd have had to the most of my guests, because you've got a very unique way of gaming. I mean, already just being here, you're talking about how the train station reminded you of train simulator games that you play.
Yeah, so I've played games since I was a kid. But when I was a kid, it sort of coincided with computers, really, like the first computers. So I don't know how old I would have been. I'm going to guess 9 or 10. I got a Spectrum 48K as the memory, 48 kilobytes.
That's unreal.
For the entire, so 48K a Spectrum with rubber keys, and games are on tapes. So you put a tape in and press play, and you have to listen to the game loading. It takes about 10, 15 minutes for this game to load. And then you play it, and yeah, that was my first introduction to computers, and I've had things ever since.
Was that around the time where the sort of 4-option adventure games would often
things like that? There's a thing called Granny's Garden that was on the school computers. It was quite good fun on that BBC. So I think BBC's right before Spectrums, maybe. I didn't really have those. But yeah, there are a lot of those sort of things. Yeah. Because you want to know my favourite games, don't you? Is this now?
I mean, I can ask it now, and we can talk.
Well, I don't mind.
It.
Because they're sort of chronological throughout the years. So it's up to you.
I mean, if it works like that, then let's do it that way. What are your top 5 games of all time? Do you know what? Very rarely do I see people talk about video games and get this excited.
Yeah, I do, because I think it's good fun. And when I was a kid, it wasn't really. It was like a thing that people did, but it wasn't mainstream. Like people. My friends, I would have friends who play games. Most of my friends would play games that I hung around with. But I remember there was a show called Games Master that was on TV. I think it was on Channel 4. And it was the first time there was a computer game TV program. And it was like they'd have like kids playing games and stuff like that. And they'd talk about games and that. And it was on like half an hour a week for like 6 weeks. And then we'd disappear for a bit. And we were like, oh my God, there's a show about games. That's amazing. Now you can't get on the internet without millions of hours a day sort of thing of game content, but there just wasn't anything around, and so yeah, I am excited about it. It's not something I don't play games every day. Well, I suppose I do on my phone a little bit. I play this game called Battle Cats that my kids got me into, and then they stopped playing afterwards, and it's just a good thing for just filling a little bit of time when you're waiting or something like that.
Well, for you, with the excitement around games, I feel like it's because you've gone through the journey of they weren't really there and then they've got better. Whereas like a lot of younger people, they come in and it's just normal. It's just games are there for everyone.
And it's like, can I swear on this?
Yeah, you can swear.
Yeah. Fuck. That was it. I'll carry on. No, it's like people are now going, oh man, like FIFA's so shit. I go, fuck off! Like, you should see the games we had to play. Moan about FIFA. Like, you might not like the style of it this year, but don't tell me it's got shit. So yeah, things have improved. But I remember like when I was a kid getting an Amiga, which like the second I had Spectrums, a couple of different Spectrums and an Amiga, and I remember getting this game and seeing the graphics of it. And I'm thinking, well, this is it. Literally cannot get better. This is as good as. It's like looking at a photo. You look at it now, it's awful. Like, it's absolutely dreadful. But at the time, I'm thinking, well, this is, I mean, that happens all the time now. I'll see a game, I'll be like a new FIFA will come out and go, wow. I mean,
never getting better than that, yeah.
It's incredible, yeah.
And it feels like that every year it's getting better so quickly. But now it's getting to a point where I feel like everything's so realistic that it's almost you want the graphics to be toned down to improve the gameplay. It's like people have gone full circle where graphics like, I don't care as much about them anymore.
Yeah, but I find it's like I've tried to get into Skyrim a couple of times, but I missed it out. I missed it when it came out. So even like literally last week, I thought I'll give it another go sort of thing. But it's because it's even the new version, the graphics are a bit sort of clunky and all this sort of stuff like that. I find it a bit harder now to immerse myself in it when I would have done in the past, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's true. The immersion can be affected by it, especially when it's trying to be realistic and it's old graphics, whereas you got the sort of stylized graphics like your Minecrafts and even like cartoon-based games like Pokemon and stuff. They're stylized in a way where you can be a bit more forgiving. Yeah,
and gameplay does get better. I used to, at uni, we had a game called Jonah Lomu's Rugby, and it was a rugby game, as you might be able to guess. But I reckon me and my friend Mike, we were probably in the top 10 in the world at it. We never really played it. We played it so much. Like, if you made one mistake in it, you'd be like, I've lost the game, and all this sort of stuff. And then our other friends would come and go, oh, do you want a game? And be like, Yeah, but it's pointless because you're going to get destroyed. But we're like elite level at trying to name your trophy. When you play it now, it's absolutely appalling. But things, things move on. But yeah.
Yeah, my brother used to like a lot of rugby games, and I remember watching him play it, and the stuff you could do, like the speed on some of the players, you just get it to me, be like, right, well, I've scored every single time.
Yeah, and I don't really like rugby as a sport, but I like the games. And the ultimate thing, the ultimate moral victory would be, my friend Mike had, would be to, if you can get the winner from a drop goal right at the end, that's the ultimate. And so you could go, we're going to have a try, no, we're going to have a drop goal to do this. And we had a thing called the Chalice of Victory that was like an old metal cup that he'd found somewhere. And we'd fill it up with whatever we were drinking, water or beer or wine, or whatever it was like that. And you were only allowed to drink from it if you'd won the last game. So you should be sipping from the chalice.
This is the reason why I wanted to ask you about gaming. I was very excited for this, is you've had some pretty clever ideas on how to integrate gaming into tournaments, fun activities, stuff like that you just described there. And you've had FIFA tournaments, you've done all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like the creativity for using gaming as a competition has sort of gone in the modern era, because now it's like, am I getting a prize money? Is there anything there to win?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people doing interesting YouTube videos, aren't they? I don't watch them, but my kids watch them, and they seem to be into them.
So talk some of the ideas, like the little.
I used to do this FIFA tournament. In fact, I still do. I literally haven't organised it this year because of FIFA, because of Happy Hour tours. I might not be doing it this summer, but I'm completely forgot it's the summer. But for the last, apart from one year for the pandemic or 2 years of the pandemic, I've been doing it every year for over 10 years. This FIFA tournament with friends. It's 16 people come along, get a team drawn out of a hat at random for a country, and people will come along as their in their not national dress, but it'll be something from their country. So if you're Sweden, you might come as ABBA or something like that. So it's that sort of thing, and people will sometimes bring food or drink from their beers from their countries and that. Great thing, and I'd go around and film everyone. Basically, this before I did YouTube, basically slagging each other off. And sometimes quite personal stuff, because people were friends. They talk about like girls that people have stolen from other people years, like really sort of deep stuff. Kind of be egging them on a bit, sort of thing. And these things would get put up. So you'd have these real needle matches, because you build up to it for a year, and it all happened in one day around my house. You'd be like really nervous because you have 3 group games, and it could be you lose your first one, and then you've got someone hard in your group. You could be out after a year of waiting, pretty much, sort of thing. So, do
you have a little cup for that, a little celebratory?
Oh, there's so many trophies. There's like, because you want something that for everyone. So there's a trophy for winning it. There's a trophy for top scorer, as in the player that's the top scorer. So as in Ibrahimovic rather than Sweden, sort of thing. So don't want to keep picking Sweden as examples. But then, so we'd have that. We had Mentor Negri Award for most horrific foul, which is always a good one. There was a trophy for the highest. So, what happened was some people were drug cheats, like they wouldn't really be drinking when everyone else was, and it gave them a real advantage, because if you're not absolutely hammered whilst playing this game, you could just win. So we brought in a breathalyzer that after the group stages you had to be above the drink drive limit. Then that went too far the other way, and we had a trophy for highest breathalyzer reading. It's not, don't try this at home, kids. And then people would try and game the system, like you do a few shots as it came up to the breathalyzer, sort of thing like that. And it was an imperfect thing. But so that went too far the other way. So there's a trophy for that. There was a trophy for best fancy dress. People would make propaganda films from their country. So there's a award for best film. All sorts.
That's amazing. What kind of people do you bring along for this?
Just my mates.
Just your mates?
Generally. Yeah. I mean, like last year, because I moved to Norwich, like Jack and Stevie and Alfie came along. But generally, it wasn't really anyone famous. It was just friends, but people from different camps. So they'd be like, the IT help desk would be one group of people who knew each other, just friends and friends of friends. People I only met through this, who'd only see once a year, and they all worked together at some IT company, and they'd be rival factions and all this sort of stuff. So you get like an IT help desk derby and stuff. So yeah, I was basically doing a really high production YouTube concept thing, but just not putting it on YouTube. And people would say, why don't you put it online? I go, well, one, everyone would lose their jobs because people say the most horrific things about each other. And two, not everything has to go on the internet, does it?
That was the big thing I was going to mention, was not everything has to be done for the sake of showing the world.
Yeah, sometimes it's something's just fun and it's just for you.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the top 5 games then. So you've spoken about a few different things there.
We'll go chronologically then.
Okay, go on.
So I've picked a variety of different things. Like I've not just got like FIFA 14, FIFA 12.
That would be rubbish.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to start off with the first game I really remember getting into as a kid, which was called Horace Goes Skiing. And in fact, someone who viewed my Twitch stream when I used to do Twitch stuff, bought me a Horace Goes Skiing t-shirt, which is very, very kind of them. And you're a little, I'm going to say monster called Horace. You're like a blob with just eyes and legs. And you had to go down, you just went down a ski slope. But then when you got to the bottom of the ski slope, you then had to cross a road as well for some reason. I think it was that way around. And then that was the end of the level sort of thing. So you have to try and avoid hitting trees and stuff and go through the gates as you went down. And then for some reason cross a road. I don't think I'm remembering that correctly. And me and my friend Gavin just loved it.
Sounds like an old game.
How
old?
A very early 80s.
80s. Okay.
Yeah, so it was on the Spectrum. It was on a tape.
And I'm guessing based off of the age of it, it was like a 2D.
Yeah, it was 2D. It was like your skis would be pointed that way or that way. There was no animation between them. It was just something like that. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't think it will have translated well now. I'm sure there's some sort of emulator online you can play Horace Goes Skiing if you want, but it was the first game I remember really getting into with my friends.
Just playing over and over again. Have you played many skiing games since then?
No, and I'm really into skiing now, but I don't know if there's any connection between that and Horace. I don't think there is. But no, I've played, there's one game that came free with PlayStation Plus called like Steep or something like that.
Have you ever seen the SSX games?
No, but I mean, I'm not really into skiing for that sort of thing. I'm into skiing because I like the wind in my face and going quite fast and stopping off at a restaurant, eating some nice food and drinking at the end of the day. You can't really do that in a game, really. No. If they had an après-ski simulator, I'm interested.
I mean, perhaps that's the new tournament, a bit of a SSX tournament with wind machines.
I'll get wind machines, do all that sort of stuff, and then. But then again, there's no competitive aspect to the skiing that I do generally. I mean, we do have an app. My friend Mike have an app that monitors your speed, and so we do try and go for a little bit. If there's a clear slope, we're sensible about it. It's only us we're getting into. We try and go as fast as we have, and not this time. But last time I went before the pandemic, I managed to get up to 65 miles an hour, which is, when you think about it, that's like just driving down going down a motorway in a car. So if you fall over, it's not great, but so there is a slight competitive element. But I don't think I'd want to translate that into gaming. No.
Gosh, I mean, if you hit anything at that speed, I mean, I assume it's nice and open. I'd never do it with anyone around. You do it in a really wide open bowl where you can see. There's no bits where people are going to come in from angles. You can see for a long way, and if someone does come on, you can just stop. And also, you need a massive runoff at the end because it's going to take you. It's going to take me anyway, like 30, 40 meters to stop. Yeah.
And you're doing that speed for like a second before it gets.
Yeah. I mean, I've not been skiing. I've only been dry slope skiing, which didn't really feel great.
No, it's a lot harder as well. If you do dry slope skiing and you go skiing, you go, oh my God, this is so much better. It's great. I mean, people focus too much on the skiing element of a skiing holiday, but that's such a minor part of the day. Like, you do it a bit. Ski lessons are fun with other people learning. It's quite enjoyable. But then you're in one of the most beautiful places you've ever been, eating amazing food, drinking wine with friends. I mean,
I went out to Canada. Is it Whistler?
Oh yeah, that's where I used to live.
Yeah. That's where we went on a holiday there, and we did like the BC, going around the Rockies kind of road trip. And that's one of my favourite places I've ever been on holiday.
Yeah, Whistler's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going back next year because it'll be 25 years since I lived there. So we're going to do a little reunion. So yeah, come along then if you fancy.
Oh, all right. Sounds like it's an amazing place. I can only imagine what it's like when it's ski season out there, and just the energy must be amazing.
Yeah, it's a great sort of party resort sort of thing. And a lot of American resorts, you have to drive to the slopes, whereas this is something that ends in the village sort of thing. And I worked in a restaurant on top of the mountain. Just got to ski home every day, and so it was fabulous. Great place, love it.
Game two.
Okay, I wrote these down on my phone just quickly before, so I didn't forget.
This is so typically when people come on and do their top 5 games, I watch them squirm as they try and work out what games they're going to go for. And you asked before, is there anything I need to prepare? And I was like, I'll let you know top 5 games. There's a long history of games that you've gone through, and you've written them down nicely here.
There's so many different ones. I thought I'd pick some from different eras. So the next one I'm going to pick, and this could really be anything. It could be Football Manager. It could be Championship Manager, which was where the people moved from Championship Manager to this. But I'm going back to the first real multiplayer sort of serious football game, and it was a game called Football Masters that I played on the Amiga, and you couldn't buy it in shops. Like, this was before the internet, so you had to go. It was advertised in the back of a magazine, and you'd get your mum to write you a check, and you'd post it, and then they'd send you the discs of this
That's
game.
Madness. You wouldn't be able to do that now, would you?
You could, but you wouldn't want to. If you didn't need, you might as well just download it.
Yeah.
Mental. So you get this thing through, and you could have up to 4 players, and you picked a team and managed it. And if you got sacked, you just instantly got given another team. So that, but it was the first game that had like more than just really simple football management sort of thing. There was stats and stuff like this.
So was that a football manager game rather than like a FIFA style game?
Yes, you weren't playing it. You just were the manager, real players. And I remember over like a Christmas holidays at school, me and 3 friends played this, and we would start 8 in the morning. My friend Gavin didn't live nearby, so he'd stay with me. Other friends live around the corner. 8 in the morning till midnight every day, we would just play this game. And my mum was really good, like with people coming around. She liked having a busy house, sort of thing, so no one mind. And I remember we'd just do this constantly, this game constantly. We'd just stop to eat briefly and then carry on. Do season after season of this game. I've probably did this for about 5 or 6 days, but I remember in the middle of that, it was Christmas Day, and we were all gutted because we had to stop doing this. And so we had like a really early printer, one of those things with the dots down the side. I'd printed out everyone's stats. They could just sit there on Christmas Day and read through the teams or stuff like that, just try and get some tactical advantage. But it was just amazing. And on Christmas Day, we were all like just getting presents, going, yeah, great, cool. Just wishing we could carry on playing Football Masters. So I'm going to pick Football Masters, but it could be any of those sort of football management games because I've enjoyed those over the years.
Well, the way you described that connection through gaming, where you got some friends around together and played it, this is something I hope that the newer generation starts to appreciate, because they all play online. I say all of them. A lot of them will go home, play online, where they'll be connected through the internet and they won't ever see each other in person when they're gaming.
Yeah.
And there's something special about sat next to people whilst you're gaming.
Yeah.
And that sort of in-your-face moment, or that, did you see that moment?
Yeah, but some games you can't. I mean, like my son Otto loves Fortnite, and as far as I know, you can only play one. You can't have 2 players playing on the same computer. So sometimes he will play with his brother, but then they have to sit in the PlayStation. One's on the PlayStation 5 in one room, one's on the PlayStation 4 in the other room, and play like that. So some things you can't. But I think some games like FIFA are quite nice to sort of meet up and play together. But yeah, I do like that. And when I carried on when I left uni, I'd play football. It would have been Championship Manager, I think, at the time. And again, it was before you could really play on the internet successfully. So we'd go around a friend's house every Monday night. We take turns to cook. We play this. If you got to a cup final, you'd wear a suit. This sort of stuff. We just do that. Occasionally, somebody gets sacked, and they just have to sit there for a few weeks till they got another job. And then eventually, we then do it online and stuff like that sort of thing. But I'd love to do with my friends a weekly Football Manager game where you do it for it. It's just so hard now to get people to commit to that.
Yeah, I remember some of my earliest memories of watching my brother play video games was him playing, I think it was Football Manager 98. And it had a very catchy theme tune. And I just remember the theme tune in the menu being like, da da da.
I can't remember, yeah.
Da, 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 and it would just be like that for like ages. And because you spend most of the game in the menu, because you're just going around, then you go to the game. I just remember listening to it, and it would just be in my head constantly. I'd be falling asleep listening to that theme tune over and over again. So that's one of my earliest memories of watching video games with Football Manager. It is quite a nice game to watch someone else play.
Yeah, well, I did it on Twitch during the lockdown. I've done a bit since, but you've not got as much time as you did during lockdown. And again, I got quite into that, and people really got behind it. It's very different because I've never really watched any other Football Manager creators. But they always play the games on high speed and all this. It's all this tactical stuff. Whereas I was more about the experience, like the team was just something that happened in the background. But then when you get to a cup final, we do it on a Friday night and stream it in real time. So we'll come there for like an hour and a half for this full game and stuff like that. I'd love to start doing it again, but it's just quite hard to get regular with it now that you're allowed out of the house.
Yeah, that would be fun watching it in real time. So my brother used to skip through games quite a lot because when you're just grinding the game, you would do. But if you had got a group watching it, you get into it.
I did think about doing a game where you do it in real time over a season. So you start the game and like if you've got a game on August the 1st, 7:30 p.m, you play it at that time in real time. But I think that's a bit too far. But I'd love to do that.
That would definitely get in the way of life a little bit.
A little bit.
So what's game 3 then?
Game 3, I think, is we're going to go to PlayStation now, but probably PlayStation 2. I can't remember which one it was on, but it was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
That was 2, I think.
Was it 2? Yeah, and that's the most... I love Grand Theft Auto games in general, but that is by far the most immersed I think I've ever got in a storyline. Like, spoilers, but to be honest, if you haven't played it now, I mean, it's your own
They're going to remaster it soon anyway, probably.
But there's a bit, I think the basic thing, you come back to where you live and for your mum's funeral, and she's been killed, and it's all about how you've moved away and you weren't there for your family and all this sort of stuff. And then eventually it gets to the point where you're going and you're going to kill the guy, get revenge on the guy who killed your mum. And you're there with your brother and you're in the car. And I remember this in my head. I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure there's very little resemblance to it. But you're basically sat there and you're going like, you're about to go into the building to get this guy, and you go, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. And your brother's going, no, man, you've proven yourself through all your actions in this game. And I go, I have proved myself. And then he's, you go, your brother goes, come on, let's go do it. He goes, no, I got to do this alone. He's like, I do have to do it alone. Yeah, and I really got into that. So that's probably my favourite. It might be my favourite ever game sort of thing, but certainly at the time I loved it. I'm a big fan of that sort of 90s West Coast hip hop and that sort of culture. So I found it so fascinating. So the soundtrack was amazing. Everything about it was I loved.
You do they're so immersive, the GTA games. And have you ever seen Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah, I played both of those. Yeah.
I feel like those kind of games, they're all very immersive.
Yeah.
You get so involved in the characters and the people you meet.
You do. I mean, I found after Red Dead Redemption, what are we on now? 5, 6.
GTA 6 will be coming out soon. We've just
we're on
GTA 5.
What was the one that was in? So San Andreas was 3 and a bit, wasn't it? So 4 was the one in New York. 4 was the one where you're Nico Bellic. Is that 4?
Maybe?
Yeah, because 5 is the one that's everyone plays
now. Yeah.
So that one, I just didn't find the story that interesting because I didn't really want to be like an Eastern European bloke in New York. Something. I want to be like a West Coast gangster a bit. I mean, obviously. And this one, I enjoyed this one sort of thing, but the 3 sort of characters, I don't know, it felt like trying to piece everything. Please everyone.
Well, I've not actually played the most recent one through the story, but I watched the whole game being played through by someone else. And I feel like that's with Grand Theft Auto, you can almost play it vicariously through other people quite nicely. I love them. I do think I might play. I never really replay story modes of games, but I might do that one. Well, it's never really quite the same, is it? You follow it slightly differently.
Yeah. I've forgotten enough about it now to maybe do it, but yeah.
Yeah, well, GTA, great choice.
Thank you.
We're starting to get into the era of games that I
you've
do
heard
know.
Of. Good. You're not into horoscope skiing? I mean, you'll look at horoscope skiing now and you'll be amazed by how shit it is.
Yeah.
Okay, after that, we'll go PlayStation 4.
Okay, big jump.
Big jump. I did have a PlayStation 3. I remember when I bought a PlayStation 2, by the way. This shows how susceptible I am to advertisement. I was watching the Champions League and someone had a shot and the ball hit the advertising board that said on it PlayStation 2. And I remember literally thinking in my head, I think I might buy a PlayStation 2. And I didn't make the connection. It was only, I thought, why did I think that? I thought, oh my God, I'm an advertiser's dream. I'm literally just going, I will do what that sign says.
So from magazines to billboards, read anything.
I'll just do whatever I'm told. I'm pathetic. So The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which I think is some of the best storytelling I've ever seen in a game. Again, really immersive. I don't mind a sort of orc type game, fantasy sort of thing. I'm not that into it. But when I was at school, like I see those great Games Workshop things, I was like one level too cool for Games Workshop, and I wish I wasn't. I wish I'd got into it because I look at it now and think, God, I'd love to paint my little orcs and play these games sort of thing. But I never did it. But I do quite like that sort of stuff. So I'd like to be into Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Like someone suggested it on the Happy Hour subreddit, said, you should get them to play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think I do that. And me and Alfie were like, I would love to do that sort of thing because we were similar. We're like, I didn't quite do it. So this sort of fantasy sort of thing, I've always got like a little interest in it, but not obsessive sort of thing. But I love the storyline. It's fantastic. I think what they do really well is they have characters in it that are flawed and it's not black and white. The decisions. There's a storyline with the bloody Baron in it, and I think I can't remember the details. It's a long time ago since I played it, but there's a bit. His wife's sort of cheating on him, and she seems like she's the baddie or something like that for a bit. But then you find out that he's been abusive, and it's then like, oh, these things aren't like cut and dry sort of thing. How do you side with on different things and decisions like that? And it's such a huge game and so much in it. I just absolutely adored it.
I feel like whenever I hear about Witcher 3, it's people talking about how well the story flows and the narratives that you hear, and that's why it was remade into a TV series, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is pretty awful.
Okay.
Yeah. They
probably were inspired by that. Oh, this is amazing storytelling. Let's try and make that. And
yeah, I think quite a lot of these things. I mean, The Last of Us the TV series was brilliant, so it is possible to do it well. But The Witcher, I don't think. I've watched the first 2 seasons, and I was like, I just don't know what's going on. I played the game, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Well,
so that's it. You've always got to appease the fans who played the game enough that they love it, but then also new people come in and go, oh, this is actually all right.
Yeah.
And
there's books before that I've never read that people are really into as well. It's supposed to be good.
Well, I've not played Witcher 3, but it's one of those games that it sounds like I might like it watching someone else play it again. Like, I'm not a big story game person. It seems like they're your kind of bread and butter.
Yeah, they are. I like that. So I like a sort of sporty type thing, sports games. I've never got into shooting stuff and all that. But like sports things, I like.
That's a mental statement.
Yeah, what, shooting things? Yeah, I don't think I. No, you know, like Call of Duty and that.
Yeah,
I played like the story mode of Call of Duty and Medal of Honor, one of those ones once. And I thought, I got to the end. I thought, I'm all right at this. Just went online. I was just like walking around getting shot. I didn't see anyone. I'm just walking around getting shot in the head. So like I've played Fortnite a couple times with my kids, but I'm just running around in fear, trying not to die, and just I cause more trouble. And it's so like he's 9 now. My 9-year-old son Otto's like, "Good job, Daddy." Whenever you do anything like that, it's so patronising. You know, I literally didn't get killed for 10 seconds. He's going, "That's really good. Well done. You got out of the storm."
You got out of the storm. That's the achievement. You survived.
But story type games, I was sort of genre I'm quite into, sort of thing like that. Like, Red Dead Redemptions, Witcher, Dragon Age, I really enjoyed. That's something I really like.
So what's number 5 then? The most modern of the games?
Number 5, the most modern. I've picked it. I've added it to my list on the way down because I play it on my Mac, and it's called Transport Fever 2.
Was this because you were on the train and you went, I really like trains?
No, because I've when I come down to London, we're in Stratford in London, direct train from Norwich. But generally to get into Norwich is between an hour and 45 minutes and 2 hours, which can take a while, can get a bit dull on the way down. But it flies by if you're playing Transport Fever. So I'll just get myself you're at the start of the line, so you can generally get a table, plug your laptop in, sit yourself in a little corner, fire up Transport Fever, and just build this incredible transport network. I love logistics, I love infrastructure and all that. And so I'm getting better at this game. Because first of all, the idea is basically you've got cities and industries and that, and you can connect them up. So you can build like passenger lines or freight and all this sort of stuff. So I came here, looked at your flat, looked out the window, and you can see a lot of infrastructure out the window here, sort of thing. And I love all that. Again, like that's where the bus station's next to the trains and all this sort of thing. And there's the light railway coming in and all this sort of stuff like that. So I think it's really, I like all that, and I like trying to fine tune it and do this. And then first of all, you're just joining up stations of that, but then eventually go, no, you're better off to make a transport hub. So you've got like loads of trains coming in and freight depots and all that sort of stuff. Love it.
Is that a future career for you then? When all this dries up, you're going to be a logistics manager for transport.
I don't know. I think the reality of it is, in real life, it's probably not as fun, because if you go, I want to build this train line, it takes 25 years
and a lot of money.
Just clicking, click, and doing it sort of thing. So
you've got to deal with the people who complain.
Yeah. So, but I do genuinely like trains in general. When we went a happy hour tour, I went to like the railway museum to look at trains and stuff. And I like new infrastructure, Crossrail. I absolutely love, like, Elizabeth Line is fantastic. And even when I was up in Hull once, I went to look at the Humber Bridge. So I like big bridges and stuff. I just find it really interesting.
I mean, I like the tycoon style games. I don't know if transport would have been my one. I've always used like roller coasters and
I never played that one. Yeah, I do like those sort of things. Yeah, like Sid Meier's Railway Tycoon was one that I got into on the Amiga. Civilization, that could have easily slotted in here. I love that. I've played that since Civilization 1. We're on 6, I think now, aren't we? that I really enjoy. But that's another one that's really good fun with friends, but it's really hard to get people because it takes so long to play. It's really hard to get people together.
It's the risk of video games, isn't it?
Yeah. Going back to Football Manager, me and my friends had this. We've always got this fantasy that we do one day. I think kids are in the way, and maybe when we retire, we'll do it. And it's called because we used to call Championship Manager Chamo when we played it. So we're playing Chamo tonight, and then when Football Manager came up, we just changed it to Famo. So we call Football Manager Famo, and we had this thing called Super Famo Chateau, and the plan is to go to France, hire out this incredible French chateau for 2 weeks. On the way there, go to the supermarket, fill it up with food and booze and all this. Go there, shut all the windows, never go out for 2 weeks, and just play Football Manager in the dark. Falling asleep occasionally, getting up. You've lost, like if you're in a casino in Las Vegas where you don't know what time it is, like that. So there's an alarm that's going to go off when you got to go back to the airport, but that's about it. Just play in this chateau, just have one massive screen or your laptops, whatever, like that, just playing Football Manager together. Brilliant.
Come out different people.
Yeah, like nothing's ever the same again. Like you go like a mole coming out into the light.
That sounds like a brilliant idea. It genuinely just sounds like a LAN. Like that happens all the time now. And like these kind of LANs, I've seen people come out of them. They look destroyed, and they're like 4 days. LANs
these days now.
They have big event LANs, but I did. So actually, weird story. I had a bit of a gaming compulsion. Would you believe? I went through a phase where I got a bit too obsessive with gaming. The breaking point was when I went to a LAN at my university. We did a 3-4 day LAN. I didn't sleep much at all during that. Got home and got a worried call from my family, picked up the call, and I looked awful because I'd just been gaming for 48 hours in the last 3 days. And they went, "This is a problem. We need to sort this out." And it was the LAN that broke me. And I don't like the idea of it now because I know how dangerous it is for me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, because it's like, my friend Jim smashed up his CD of a Civilization game because he goes, I can't just keep playing. If it's there, I'm going to end up playing it. So destroy. I think he smashed up and buried it in his garden. Don't know why buried it in his garden. I'm going to put it back together. But yeah, you can get a bit too into these things, can't you?
Well, I guess thanks for the top 5. It was a very interesting top 5.
Yeah, I'll make an effort.
Make an effort.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed that. I mean, a lot of history in that as well.
Yeah, I should say, by the way, just quickly on Transport Fever 2, it has the greatest soundtrack of any game. Whoever's made the music for this, it is banger after banger after banger, and it just loops round. We did it at the stream, and everyone's going, this is the best music I've ever heard. And when we come and I go, yeah, I love this. I'd love if the band who did the soundtrack to Transport Fever 2 played a gig, I'd go. I would go. I'd be in the front row.
That's a sign of a great soundtrack is when you don't turn off the music after a few minutes.
Brilliant. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Well, those top 5s were all amazing. And you said there about how we spoke about how unhealthy gaming could get. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued just because you're in a unique position as someone who has gone through the generation of gaming coming into your life. You've had some unique periods of your life where you got very into games and everything. As a parent, how do you balance gaming for your kids?
Yeah, it's hard. And it's a strange. So Otto, my son, who's 9, is most into games out of them, and it's quite a hard one because there's no rule book, there's no guide. Like he'll come home from school and he'll play Fortnite with his friend, but they're chatting at the same time and they're talking while they're playing it. So I'm sort of like, is this? It's not just like playing online. You're not just randomly just playing a random game. It's like if when I was a kid and friends came around to play, it's sort of that, but in different houses, sort of thing. So it's hard. But occasionally you've got to get them off screen and do other things. But I think as long as they're not too obsessive over it, I think it's not bad. But it is hard.
Because this is something I've thought about is with the next generation of kids where they've grown up and it's just been there, and phones, TVs, smart TVs even, right? Like when we were watching TV, we would have 4 channels or whatever, and you just put on whatever was available. Yeah. And then it got to a point where there's so many channels, and then parents had to have parental control over what channels you could watch. And then started getting with the internet. It was like, oh, parents don't even know what you're getting up to.
Yeah.
And now it's quite scary that there's this instant access to things that are not healthy for a young kid.
Yeah, well, I grew up. I mean, there's decent sort of protections in there in place on things like content controls to a degree, and you've got to just try and raise kids that aren't mental and idiots. You know, kids that are going to respect these things and be sensible. And the kids' schools are quite good at advertising, telling them how to stay safe online. But I grew up without the internet, and I got it my first week at uni. And in my head, I think the internet had always been there, but you get it when you go to uni, sort of thing like that. So in many ways, I feel quite lucky that I didn't have any of those societal pressures and things like that everyone's worries about. But then these things all just are in different forms. Like everyone's always like how Instagram now gives girls an unrealistic views of their bodies and all this sort of stuff. But it's, we had the exact same conversation about women's magazines when I was younger. It was always the exact same chat. These are really bad for women's self-esteem and all this sort of stuff, and young girls and all that. And now it's just moved on to a new thing. And no one ever goes about women. You never hear anyone about girls' magazines giving them an unrealistic view, because it's just moved on to a different thing. So there's always the same sort of challenges to a degree. They just evolve and develop, and you've got to look at all the benefits of it like that. If I go somewhere here, you can look at a map on you got a map on your phone to get around places. Before, I remember when I started driving, if you were going to somewhere, you have to look at a map. You could even print a map out, look at a map for a big book. I've got to go up this road, then this road, this road. Then you get to like Birmingham, and to find their house, you either have directions, you have to buy a local map and follow the local map sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how things change.
Yeah, I guess what you said there about the cyclical blaming of things. I remember mum always used to say that about video games being blamed for male aggression. She was like, when I was growing up, it was movies, and before that, it was something else. There's always
music, whatever. There's always something
metal,
there's always something that parents use to cover up their poor parenting a lot of the time, something like that. But I mean, it's true a lot of the time. People we put not a lot, but we put a little bit of money in the kids for an ISA, so that when they're a bit older, they've got a little bit of money to help them out, sort of thing. And people go, I wouldn't do that, because then the kids get the money at 18, and what if they just waste it? Like, well, don't raise idiots then. Raise kids that aren't going to just spunk however many £1,000 when they turn 18. Educate them what are the benefits, how to invest things, how things work. Just back yourself a little bit as a parent, and don't just mess it up. Have a bit of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the hardest jobs in the world, isn't it? Being a parent. There's people think it's going to be something you can replicate through the skills you've learned through growing up, but ultimately you get one chance at a lot of people, and
yeah, it is hard. You get different challenges with different kids, and things. There's things out of your control, relationships with school, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not easy, but also I think some people make it look harder than it is to a degree. I mean, I always think you're best to sort of treat people with as much freedom as you can, sort of thing. With my daughter, when she started secondary school, we give her a lot of freedom. She'll go after school, see friends and all this sort of stuff. She's got a phone now, she can let us know where she's going and stuff like that. But it's always like, as long as your homework's getting done and you're being sensible, you can sort of do what you like to a degree. So I think if you teach people to be good adults, not good kids, I think is the way to do it. So teach them skills that we use in adult life, not just do this.
Yeah, and then that way they grow up quicker, and
trust them more. They grow up with sort of confidence. With my daughter, I think we went a bit too strong on the girls can do anything books. There's all these books like girls, sort of like you're trying to build confidence, sort of thing like that. We went too far the other way, and I was like, I can do that. You're only 12, come on. So we need to rein it back in a bit. Then.
It's sort of like the American dream of you can be whatever you want, as long as you believe.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a certain realism, but there's a realism there as well, sort of thing. But she's got an immense amount of self-confidence that I never had as a kid. Never self-confidence, and she's cool and stuff like that. So yeah, you just got to sort of do your best and just try not to mess them up. My mate Chris once said to me that the idea of being a parent is to mess your kids up slightly less than your parents messed you up. If you can do that, you're all right.
Cool. I mean, I was very lucky. I had great parenting.
Oh, that's pretty tough for you then.
I've got a high bar to beat. But no, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you about all sorts of things. There was almost like, I felt like we could have done a whole nother episode and spoke about completely different stuff, because there's so many stories you've got
Well, if anyone cancels, let me know and I'll come back down.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, I'd love to hear about more of your gaming.
Yeah, no, I've generally really enjoyed it. She want to do part two anytime.
Oh, thank you very much, Robbie. Well, we end the podcast, same question for everyone. And I'll be interested for you because I feel like you'd have a unique opinion on this. And that is, what does gaming mean to you? Do I
have to give one answer?
Give as bigger answers as you want.
Okay. It's a variety of things ranging from passing the time while I'm waiting for a bus on my phone to big social events, to connecting with my kids, to all sorts of things. Something that you do in all sorts of different ways in all sorts of different parts of life.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.